Welcome to another great episode of HERcast with Dr. Chito, where we celebrate women breaking barriers and creating transformative change. Today, we dive into the incredible story of Niouma Semega, the visionary founder of SemegaChange, a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering women of color in STEM. Through her groundbreaking initiatives, including a mentorship program for Nigerian girls in STEM, Niouma is not only educating young women, but also equipping them with the tools they need to transform their communities and lead their nations into a brighter future. Join us as Niouma shares her inspiring journey, the challenges she faced, and the bold vision behind Semega Change. This episode will leave you inspired to dream big and take action to create meaningful change in your community. And the title of this episode, I didn't say it before, is How Semega Change is Inspiring the Next Generation of Women in STEM. Welcome, Niouma, onto HERcast with Dr. Chito.
Hello, thank you so much for allowing me to join this amazing podcast. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. What I want to know is I want you to tell me about your journey because I believe your journey is part of the inspiration of what you do. So tell me about your journey.
Yeah, 100%. So my journey actually started back home in West Africa. I grew up in Mauritania and then I spent some time in Senegal as well. And while I was there for those 5 years, I knew that I wanted to, like the different experiences that I was going through, I knew that there could be a change. And so one of the main things, which was the result of my academic journey, is I knew that there are a lot of like environmental health issues that I was noticing during my time. And I knew that, a lot of the diseases and illnesses I was seeing, such as like neonatal disorders, malaria, etc. I knew that the environment had a direct impact. And at a young age, I was always curious to know how can the environment affect us as people that are living in it. And then so once I moved back to the United States, I, went through school and then I attended high school, a low income Black and brown high school. And essentially, one day my physics teacher pulled myself and a couple other students aside and asked us to work on a science project. I mean, usually in those like low income high schools, it's exacerbated by lack of opportunities, resources.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew the first thing I wanted to do was work on a science project that had to do with the environment. And so the school said, we don't have that much money, but we'll try our best to support you with your project. And then so with that, that's when I decided to invent a device that extracts chemicals from the ocean, like mercury and nitrate, which are a lot of these chemicals are what results in a lot of adverse health outcomes. And then so through that experience, I was able to compete at numerous science conventions, conferences. I was able to receive many awards from Sweden, from New York City's largest science fair, as a silver medalist, as well as a gold medalist at NAACP. However, while I was in these different conventions and competitions, I noticed that there was a lack of women, let alone women of color, Black women. And I knew that there were other smart and ambitious women like myself, but they just didn't have the resources or the platform in order for them to be in these spaces like I was blessed to be in. And then so from that age, that was my sophomore year of high school, I decided that something had to be done about this because I knew that, if they had the resources, then they'd be able to also execute these projects or ideas they might have. And then so that was when SemegaChange first came to mind. And I applied for Victoria's Secret's Pink with Purpose project. It was essentially a competition where, you have an idea, you want to trailblaze and make a change. And I presented with my SemegaChange, idea. And so I was one of the 10 recipients of that award. And so from then on was the birth of SemegaChange back in April 2020. So I was just, I would say 18 years old, right around then. I did not know that by now I would still be, continuing to champion the idea. And so that's where my journey started. And then, yeah, the rest is,
I have to highlight that
I guess we
that you
can.
started Semega Change at the age of 18 years old. I have to really highlight that, and your leadership journey and your I mean, pretty much you're talking about high school. You're talking about, Nigeria, they'll say secondary school. And you did all that. And I think I want to highlight that, for your generation, that needs to be highlighted, especially here where people struggle to dream or struggle to see the future. I think that is amazing because you started this very amazing initiative and NGO at the age of 18. And I want to add, and you're doing your PhD now at 20,
Yes. Yeah.
at 22,
So a little
21.
bit. Yeah, a little bit more about that. So after starting SemegaChange, I then attended undergraduate school or university at NYU, New York University, and I majored in global public health and sociology, minoring in environmental studies and data science because I knew that I wanted to work in public health and be able to come up with preventative measures to prevent these adverse health outcomes that are in direct relation to the environment. And so throughout my journey there, I was going through college, and then I involved myself in a lot of like laboratory experiences, projects. And so during that time, I was still working on my invention and an environmental extracting device. And then through that experience, I was able to work with the Ghanaian government to work on a wastewater management within the
Wow.
community. What happened was the community was burning their trash. And so what would happen is the fumes from the trash burning would then cause them to get sick and be
Mm.
prone to diseases, cancer and other respiratory diseases as well. And so I worked on that. And then I also worked on EPA Monitor, which is essentially just the Environmental Protection Agency in the United States. And their job is to, protect the public health by placing these monitors so that it can detect what's in the. However, these monitors were not being placed in underserved communities, which was, a recurring issue that I noticed throughout my journey, my environmental health journey. Environmental justice is something that I'm really passionate about.
Wow.
And so I worked on it as well. And then I also had the opportunity to go to Kenya and work on an internship there to help with HIV prevention and whatnot. So I did a lot during my undergraduate, experience. And I was also the president of many clubs like the Inter-Residence Hall Council, the Black Muslim Initiative at NYU. And so through all these leadership roles, I was also simultaneously building some mega change. And so
Mm.
through that experience, the first thing I wanted to do was kind of work with a hospital, specifically NYU Langone, which is a hospital that I had volunteered with 7 years. And during all those 7 years, I was the only Black volunteer. And so that was at the age of, 20. And I knew that that was, there was some sort of disparity there because a lot of students need those opportunities in order for them to get into medical school or become
Yes.
good candidates. And so SemegaChange partnered with NYU Langone so that we can allow them to diversify their volunteer pool, so
Mm.
that students wouldn't be struggling with that. And then essentially, after, you know, that we started working on the Nigerian mentorship program, that was like our first global
Yes.
initiative.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
one coming as well. So I know we'll touch on that as
Yes.
well. But in terms of academic, I knew that I wanted to work more on environmental health risks within the African, like sub-Saharan African continent. And so I knew the only way I could be able to do that was to be an academic weapon.
Yes, you
And
got that one right. That's because that's what to hear. That's what they look at a lot, right? What's your academic credibility? So that's truly
yes,
important. I think we're going to come back again, talk about that environmental part of it as well. I know today we're talking about STEM, but I think we definitely have to come back to talk about the environmental part as well. So this is not the last time on HERcast, by the way. So why did you focus? I know SemegaChange, you told us about really your journey there and maybe your inspiration as well. But why now? Why did you choose now to focus on empowering girls of color in STEM? And what do you, because for you to choose STEM, you obviously know that STEM is a tool for many other things, in terms of that knowledge
yeah,
of STEM gives you power in other ways. What caused you to choose that?
yeah, 100%. So globally, like in terms of statistics,
Mm-hmm.
women of color only make up about 17% of the STEM field. And so, that's a jarring number and statistic to, for it to be something that still exists within 2024. And I know that STEM is, in the community seen as, something that's complicated or complex or challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, I know that that's why a lot of like women are hesitant. That's one of the reasons women could be hesitant to go into STEM. And also within the community, culturally, like women are not seen in those type of science, more challenging, complex roles, although women are more than capable of being able to, indulge within those topics and, solve these issues. And one of the main thing is I noticed a lot of the issues that exist within our communities, come from our own communities.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my perspective, the best and proactive way of tackling these issues, have people from that community be part of, these tables and conversations to solve these things. And so, women of color in STEM is a vital, pathway in order for us to be able to tackle and address these issues that exist. And so, I know growing up in West Africa, when I was younger, I never envisioned that I'd perhaps go into STEM because it wasn't something that was, spoken about as much, or it's not really empowered as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is that a woman can also learn these complex and challenging STEM topics as much as a man. And
Yes.
so I think that was the main things that I wanted to tackle. And I wanted to kind of break the barrier of, feeling, insecure or feeling like it's too complicated or too hard to do, because the reality is that it is possible, and it is something women just more of themselves. So yeah, essentially that's one of the main reasons why I decided to tackle women in STEM, and also just a hard journey that I went through as a woman in STEM.
Yes.
Going into these competitions or these classrooms. I remember I worked at a laboratory at my school, and I was the only woman and only Black woman
Mm.
in the room. And that there's other women who could also be there if they felt more empowered to do that. And then even right now in my PhD program, I'm the only Black student in the entire department. And so that means that
You may didn't tell
throughout
them
my
how old are
journey,
you.
I,
How are you doing PhD program? You haven't said how old you are. You don't want to say it. Tell.
so I'm actually 23. I just graduated from university and went straight to getting my PhD. I skipped my master's.
Wow.
I was like, I'm ready
Wow.
to.
Wow. That's amazing. All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you so much.
So I know you talked about the online mentorship program you hosted for Nigerian girls. I think you did it this past summer, right? Can you just tell us more about that and what were some of the highlights and challenges regarding that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, essentially, I knew that I wanted to do work back home as well. So I knew that, my story is in both places. My experience here in America as well in the West African region. And, having grown up there for 5 years, um, I still think about what my life could have been if I still was living there. I guess a little side story is, so I was born here in the US, and then I went over to Mauritania where I grew up. So I was supposed to move there, as in like live there and perhaps be there by now. And then I came over to the US just to visit my mother for like a month. And then while I was here, my mother was like, "Do you want to stay?" And I was like, "I'm not sure." She said, "Well, you need to tell me right now because your flight is tomorrow. So you need to tell me, you know, if you want to stay or not." And at that age, I was at the age of 9. I was like, but my toys are back home, my friends are back home, like school is starting in a couple days, like, I want to go back to what's familiar, but I knew that if I stayed here, I had all these ideas and all these things I envisioned. And I knew that if I wanted to like become the academic weapon that I needed to be in order to make those changes, that perhaps staying here might have been a better idea. And so at the age of 9, I decided to stay here and went through all these. So
That stayed in the US, you
my
mean?
mind,
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly, in the US. So my mind is here in the US, but my heart is still back
I
home.
feel you,
And
girl.
so
Mm-hmm.
I know we spoke about this. Yeah, so at the end of the day, like I still, while I'm going through this journey with some mega change in my like academics, I know that I still want to be able to aid back home. And so which is why the Nigerian mentorship program is
Mm-hmm.
perfect because it's a co-beneficial business model. And so what that means is that the girls, we select girls here from the US, about 25 strong, ambitious women of color that are in these diverse STEM fields. We just had our mentorship this summer. We
Mm-hmm.
had girls from Harvard, Columbia, Syracuse, just throughout the entire US. And they went through an application process. They submitted their resumes and answered in-depth questions. And then we selected 25 of them. And those 25 girls from the US, we matched them with young girls in Nigeria. And so we partnered with Dreams from the Slums, which is a nonprofit
Mm-hmm.
that focuses on, empowering young, students and children from the slums and like rural communities in Nigeria. And so essentially we partnered with them to pair us with secondary students as well as those that are about to enter high school. And we carried out the internship virtually from the month of June to August.
Okay.
And what happened during these sessions was everyone would join in, and then they would go to different breakout rooms. Some students were studying public health, data science, the cardiovascular system, stem cells, breast cancer. And, the importance of these diverse topics was that, um, you know, I know that while I was growing up there, the only STEM fields that were kind of known were, being a nurse or perhaps
Yes.
a physician.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so there was a lack of exposure of these diverse STEM fields that can also make a change in communities and can also, solve these issues. And so that was the, key thing that I wanted to hit with the Nigerian mentorship was to expose them to these plethora and diverse fields that exist in STEM.
Yes.
And I remember one of the girls, Zainab, I'll shout her out. Before the program, she was like, "Oh, I'm not entirely sure. Like we did like a pre-survey and post-survey, and I got to speak to them as well. She was like, oh, like she knew she was in a cardiovascular disease, block, and she was like, oh, I'm not entirely sure what that is or what that even means. And after the program, she was like, oh, this is great. I didn't envision that it would be this simple to learn about the heart and how like the
Mm.
disease can, it. And it's just anecdotes like that carry on the purpose of Semega Change. Just being able to go from being unexposed to now knowing. And
Yes.
the first step to making any change is knowing, acknowledging, you know, information and gaining wisdom. And
Oh
so,
my.
yeah, that was the
I
Nigerian
think it's
mentor.
just a powerful
Mhm.
tool. I think what you're doing now, so it's very because as I'm listening to you, I'm just like, oh my god, this can go in so many directions. It's such a fruitful initiative. You know what I mean? Like those kind of that's just not it's just not one. I don't see one path to it. I see someone being part and taking part in this initiative and growing in different directions in different sectors. Actually, not just health, not just because STEM now crosses I think through most of all sectors, and just knowing that
Yeah,
and when you do this, I know that I work in the community myself, the rural areas, and I know that some of these young girls, I remember when I went to a classroom and I asked them, what do you want to be when you grow up, and I was so amazed how someone just shouted, I'm going to be the president of Nigeria. And so I know that these girls still dream, and I think just being able to be exposed to that and being able to connect it to those kind of mentors is very, very,
yeah,
very, very positive. But I also know that one thing about most of these kind of initiatives, especially when you're tackling it in countries like Nigeria or even any other countries in Africa sometimes or around the world, there are limitations and barriers. So how does your organization address these barriers, like limited access to resources, or such as Wi-Fi, quality education for the girls? You're meeting girls that may not be educated up to their grade level here, because I've seen some people that are 19
yeah,
in 19 in what we call SS1, which would be I think like maybe grade 9 or something, and they're not what I mean, they're still struggling. So how do you overcome these barriers with when you come to do these initiatives in Africa?
Yeah, 100%. And that's a great question. I believe that was asked the first time, but I kind of went off on a tangent. But
Yeah.
yeah, one of the things that we worked on this past summer. So this one that we did this past summer was more of a pilot. And the point of the pilot was for us to be able to go through it one time and kind of use it as a means of educating ourselves on what are barriers and things that we would come across that might be an issue later on. And so one of the things that we noticed was Wi-Fi, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So what would happen is, for example, this is a virtual initiative. And so what that means is that it's done through online and many issues that
Mm-hmm.
are faced back home issues. And just superficial things like that, like internet, can affect your educational journey,
Mm-hmm.
as small as it might sound. But you need those resources in order to do research. For example, the mentors gave them homework. If you didn't have internet, you wouldn't be able to do it. And so what we did was, halfway through the mentorship program, we did a fundraiser in order for people to donate money for us to be able to install Wi-Fi to the girls. And so we were able to do that. And so now we know that next summer, when we're able to carry out this mentorship program in Nigeria, Wi-Fi is one of the big obstacles that we faced during the mentorship program. And then also devices. So what we noticed was the girls, some of them had to share their devices during lessons. And then also, some of them, friends came together so they can be able to join the mentorship program together. And, that was nice to see, but also it can be very limiting, just thinking about if they're not able to independently attend this virtual mentorship program,
Yeah.
and then having to kind of out of their way, that's a huge obstacle. And so what SemegaChange plans to work on is being able to provide these girls, the ones that, this upcoming cycle, be able to give them Wi-Fi and also devices. Just last night, I was working on a grant,
Mm.
hopefully, and then, garner some support through this podcast as well,
Yes.
for us to be able to provide devices to these young girls, and then also Wi-Fi. And that's just the start of, that's a resource that's vital in this day and age in order for you to do anything. And
Mm.
so those are things that we plan on addressing. And then also, like, right now we're carrying out, coming up in 2025, but working in Ghana as well to kind of do a scholarship program
Mm-hmm.
to be able to girls to attend university.
Oh wow.
And so, that's bring over to Nigeria as well and other parts, because that's one of the main obstacles. Like, it's not just about STEM, but access to education, period. And so if we're not able
That's
to pass
amazing.
that boundary,
Yes, I think that's amazing, and I know that I'm. You know me, I've become your fan right now. I'm so inspired, and that's why I always tell people that there's nothing like someone say, oh, you are inspired, and people always look for being inspired by people older. That's not true. Inspiration is
mhm,
has no age barrier, or
yeah,
you're very inspirational. In fact, my son, I've been telling him about you, like, so this is Niouma, this is what she's doing. So you are really an inspiration for every generation. I love what you're doing. What you said about what you're doing in terms of access to education, that's something that I will tell you is a major gap, is access to education, especially for the girl child. And I think that's amazing. So now, another question I wanted to something that was said there that I said that the colo mentality, I couldn't get over it. So when I saw when you
yeah.
talk about your marriage, and I saw that colo mentality, you mentioned that as a challenge in African industries. How does Jamaica Change aim to combat this mindset through its programs?
I love this question because, you know, even in my PhD program, not just like in terms of some change academically, this is something that I'm very vocal about. In my department, being the only Black student in all the years, this is something that I talk to my non-Black counterparts about. So something that I'm very vocal about. And that term color mentality in the US, some of us call it the white savior mentality, where you have non-Black researchers, or just programs or initiatives come into Africa, and then they sort of come in with an idea, they solve the issue, and then when they leave, everything crumbles back down to what it was. And so it's 2024, and I truly believe Africa could be way more advanced than it is now. But because of
Definitely.
the color mentality, and the white savior complex, that hinders us from being able to progress. And so, what that just means is, within African communities, we should be able to, allow our own community members to come in and do the work and not expect someone from outside or foreign force to come in and do that work for us. And
True.
the difference between having someone from your community and having someone from outside come in is the sustainability part, right?
Yes, yes.
You have these,
Sustainability, yes.
initiatives, right? They have $2 million to work on a project. They'll come in, go to Abuja, Nigeria, work on that project for 2 years, right? With
Mm-hmm.
those $2 million, and then
Mm-hmm.
when they leave, Abuja, Nigeria, back to zero because they don't have that sustainability. And so, what SemegaChange hopes to, kind of break that barrier with is by allowing, you know, African children or just the African community see people that are from their community doing change that's effective and productive and also sustainable for the community,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because at the end of
Yes.
the day, it's important to get foreign help, right? I'm not saying that we shouldn't have that, but it's the paradigm and perspective
Yes.
of it,
Yes.
right? The perspective
True.
is what goes a long way. And so, of course, it's humanity. We should all help each other, no matter where we are or
Mm-hmm.
who we are. But it's just the aspect that, we should allow people from the community who've experienced these issues, who
Yes.
these, hindrances, be able to be part of the tables and discussions to solve these issues because they know the nuances and they understand the issue a lot more than someone
True.
coming in from the outside,
True.
right? So it's
True.
not just about, you know it's just more about the fact of sustainability. I feel like the
Yes.
way to tackle sustainability by allowing people from that community to, know what they're doing and the community to trust them to allow them to do what they want to do. And the example I always use as an environmentalist is, for example, let's say there's an initiative where, this community lacks trees. And
Yes.
so, an outside force comes in and they start planting trees, but then they don't show the community how to plant
Plant
the
the
trees.
trees. What? Yes. Very true.
And it's so what
And that's what
you get what
happens.
I'm saying.
Yes, I think because in health, I see it all the time. I see. I know that maybe the heart's in the right place, but you know what I always say sometimes that we have to learn how to do this ourselves as well. It's one thing to come with projects and go into the society and come with technology and all that, but you have to make sure that the people on ground can do it as well, that we're teaching. And that's one of the things that I talk about even in the healthcare system or hospitals, where the initiatives come, people are just going in, they'll come and maybe partner and leave. And I'm thinking, no, they can't partner and leave. One of the things that's very important, even where I think Dubai grew their healthcare system, they partnered in a way that the people in that place were taught how to do the thing. So when you leave, they multiplied and they
Yeah,
expanded. We can't keep doing this thing
yeah.
where people come to do projects or do whatever, leave, and then the people on ground don't know how to sustain it at the same quality or at the same level in which those people came in. So what you're saying makes complete sense. You spoke about mentorship because I'm very big about mentorship, but you spoke about mentorship, and I think mentorship is very key in any kind of self development. And I want to know, how do you select the mentors? You said they come from different places. Do they apply, or do you personally select where you get those mentors for these girls? Because I feel that they have to also connect to these girls as well.
And so these mentors, what we did was within our SemegaChange community, our social media platforms. I'll do a shameless plug to follow us on Instagram, SemegaChange. We're trying to hit 1,000 followers soon. But through these platforms, and SemegaChange attends a lot of talks, and we have a lot of events like our SemegaChange Gala, which is where we award
Okay.
Black women in STEM, our trailblazers. And the importance of that is to be able to empower them and also to show other girls that they're also able to, you know, have an idea, have an issue in mind that's affecting them in their community, use them as a means of solving these issues. regardless of if they think it might be complex or challenging.
Sorry, quickly, just let us know how. I was talking about mentorship being very important for self development. How how do you select those mentors?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, these mentors are within our spaces from the different events that we host here in the US. And these events are hosted, within the East Coast of the US, because that's where the headquarters of the Mega Change is, within New
Yes.
York. But we've been expanding, able to reach audiences, in California, in Atlanta, in Texas, and different parts of the US. And we essentially have them go through an application process where they submit their resumes, they submit, a series of questions that we ask them. And also, they talk about what this experience might mean to them. And then we also interview them just so we can see, what they have to say. There's one thing to see on paper, but there's one thing
Yes.
to see how they feel. And then also we make them submit videos because we want
Okay.
to make sure that we're that are really intentional and aren't just doing this, to look good on the resume or to look good on paper. You want to select mentors that are, passionate and professional. Those are my two favorite words. Actually, three:
I know.
passionate, professional, and those are my
Wait, I
three
didn't hear the third
pillars.
one. It said passionate, professional, and
Punctual.
punctual. Did you say
Yeah,
punctual? Okay.
yeah, punctual as in, like, they're on time, they're on it, they're like
Not
very
African
clean
time.
to detail. Well, you will tackle that barrier eventually. But yeah, professional and punctual. And so that's what we look for. And then we
Okay.
selected our 25 girls. Originally, we wanted girls from the UK as well, but perhaps we will be able to do that. Our mentorship. I know time difference is a huge thing as well, but that's how
And
we
maybe
select our mentors.
include in
Yeah,
Nigeria too. There are a lot of people here that make amazing mentors as
yeah,
well. Or Africa,
100%.
really.
And one of my program managers, Uche, I'll shout out as
Yes.
well. I know she had a diverse, a plethora of connections in Nigeria that her and I were talking about. And so having girls on the ground there as well be part of the
Yes.
experience
Brilliant.
that want to incorporate. So we've been planning that. We just had a meeting on Friday, so we've been planning that as well. And also the mentorship is not just for the mentees, like the students, it's also for the mentors,
Yes.
because it's a co-benefit experience.
It
So
definitely
it allows
is.
for the mentors to be very confident as, STEM professionals and to gain skills like professional development, leadership, and confidence. And so that's the vision with the mentorship program, to help
Okay.
both sides.
That's amazing. So, I
Yeah.
want to give you the final question that I think is very important. And that's just simply how can people support Semega Change and its mission to empower women or girls in STEM across Africa? How can people support Semega Change? Because what you're doing is an amazing initiative, but I know it will going to require a lot of support in different ways to be able to let it spread and get to the different places that you are hoping to get to in long term. So, how can people do that?
Thank you so much for that question. It definitely is very important because, if you want to go far, you walk alone. But if you want to, make it far, you walk together. That's an African proverb, but I really believe in that. So that what that means is that the community has to believe in the mission and also spread the word. That's the first thing. Spread the word about Semega Change. Support us online by following us on on Instagram, Semega Change, and then our website. Check it out, SemegaChange.com, and also connect with us on LinkedIn to stay up to date with things that we do. And the second most important thing as well is, supporting us by sponsoring the different things that we might have. If you have a huge community of 100 people, person donates, 1 naira, like now you have
I don't know
1,000.
what 1 naira will do, but I don't even think I've seen a 1 naira note for a long. But
Not mathing. But the point is, at the end of the day, you can at least buy a candy with that. You know what
yes,
I mean?
no, in Nigeria, I can't buy a candy with 1 naira. There's no 1 naira. Our candy starts from 100. Is it 100 naira? She's laughing.
100 naira sponsoring us. And, for example, when we have, the next time we have our mentorship program, we would like to have an in-person summit. We're having one in Tanzania this January, and we would like to host one in Nigeria after the mentorship program, where the mentors here in the US can also be part of that experience on the ground and see these girls face to face. And so that's going to require a lot of support from the community on the ground. And so what that means is like sponsoring us with like things like food or swag bags, or if you're a business out there that wants to help, this initiative, just donating or giving things to, these girls that they can leave with, that also helps your business grow, but
Yes.
also, they're able to feel love. And then also connecting other professionals, STEM professionals, being part of this initiative to help with the mentorship program so it can grow way more than it is now.
True.
And I just, like you said, to go many avenues. I feel like it would require a whole nother podcast to talk about, where it can
Yes,
go and everything.
definitely.
But I think involved, our emails on our Instagram, our website, just contact us, let us know you're interested in any shape or form, whether that's financially or supporting our summit that will happen. And the point of the summit is to allow for girls in the community that weren't a part of the actual virtual mentorship to also be able to get exposed and also feel the empowerment and the mission of SemegaChange. And we
Amazing.
anticipate that to happen. So, yeah.
Amazing. This has been an amazing interview. I think a powerful one, and I think one that I think I'm not going to mention, but I'm sure every is watched, and this is an episode that I think I will definitely promote my heart, because it's important that people know that this kind of initiative exists, and empowering our girls to go into STEM is powerful, because this is the time. Technology is the way in every sector, including health, and just I think that gives people a lot of opportunities, job opportunities, career opportunities. So I think you're doing a wonderful job, Niouma, at such a young age, and just to be inspired by your journey to give back to others. I really want to commend you for it. And this is not your last visit here at HERcast with Dr. Chito. We're bringing you back. We're bringing you back. So
I,
I'm just gonna close and say thank you so much for being here.
and I want to thank you so much, Dr. Chito, for the amazing podcast, empowering women. That's why I was so excited to be a part of this. So thank you. I know you're a doctor, you have a podcast, and you're an inspiration to me as well. So I feel so honored I've been invited. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to close and say thank you, guys. Thank you to my audience for joining us on this powerful episode of HERcast with Dr. Chito, titled How SemegaChange is Inspiring the Next Generation of Women in STEM. You heard it all. Niouma Semega's work is truly inspiring, and it's a reminder that through education, mentorship, and determination, we can transform communities and create a brighter future for women in STEM. HERcast with Dr. Chito empowers women to overcome barriers, gain knowledge, and thrive. Inspired by my own journey, we tackle societal challenges, equipping women to break limits and reach their full potential in all areas of life. With the tagline, Her Strength, Your Inspiration, we aim to inspire women to rise, live authentically, and embrace their greatness. Listen now on all your favorite podcasts. Watch us on YouTube, HERcast with Dr. Chito. Follow us on HERcast Podcast and at Dr. Chito N. Catch us on TV, Rapid TV Station, Channel 176 on Star Times, Saturday 7 p.m. and Sunday 2 p.m. Until next time, I'm Dr. Chito, reminding you to live boldly, lead with your heart, and keep pushing for the change you want to see. See you on our next HERcast.